Fruit for Thought: Recovering the Original Fruit/Fruits of the Spirit and Harvesting It/Them Today. Written by Art Edwards. Copyright 2022. This presentation and recording were done by Casey Evans with permission from the author. Author's notes: some names and locations in the author's personal stories have been changed. These events happen pretty much as described, at least in my memory. What kindness wasn't for Paul. When Paul writes about kindness, Christotes, as a fruit of the Spirit, it's essential to understand what he doesn't mean. Paul's understanding of kindness has nothing to do with the ubiquitous yellow smiley face that's so old it predates emojis. Christotes has nothing to do with saccharine smiles, pats on the back, and facile bromides like, "I'll pray for you." Hang on. I realize some people are absolutely serious when they say they will pray for you. But when most folks say, "I'll pray for you," it means about as much as believing that when people say goodbye, they're really saying, "God be with you." As a fruit of the Spirit, Christotes does not mean opening doors for people or not killing bugs. Christian kindness is several steps above and beyond simply being courteous. What kindness was for Paul. Christotes means engaging in behaviors that are eminently useful for other people. The kindness written about by Paul needs arms, legs, and actions, ours. Kindness is a gift given by those who can put other people's needs ahead of their individual egos. I'm not suggesting that kindness is always a grand gesture that changes people's lives forever. It can be an everyday act, a simple gift, or a small reassurance to someone that they have been heard. Being kind is not something that comes naturally to most of us. It's certainly not natural for me. It requires an intentional way of thinking translated into actions that don't just happen on their own. The good news is that if we work hard enough at it, kindness can become a habit. And no matter what we may believe, if believing it doesn't help us manifest Christotes, we need to believe something else. Everyday kindness and the lack of it. All this thinking about kindness on my part followed a recent visit to my local Einsteins. I have a love/hate relationship with Einstein brothers, the bagel makers, not the mathematician. My only relationship with the E=mc² Einstein is not understanding a word he wrote. Einstein's has been my destination for thousands of breakfasts since 1984, when we returned from Alaska to the East. That is when I won an Einstein's contest, treating me to a one-week vacation for 4 at the Whistler Ski Resort in British Columbia. Since then, whether in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Georgia, or points in between, we've been regular customers. I guess gifts, including M&Ms, can guarantee my loyalty. As a born and bred New Yorker, I'm the first to admit that compared to New York City's finest, Einstein's bagels are not the best. But they're available nearly everywhere, and that is worth something. It's also worth something that they're better than other national bagel chains, which turn this delicacy into oversized, wonder if it's bread, spongy dough balls, Frisbee lookalikes, or rocks with holes. The worst characteristic of Einstein's is that the only thing they are consistent about is their ability to mess up an order. No matter where we are and what we order, Einstein's will get some combination of the schmear, jelly, butter, bagels, pastries, and the number of items wrong. When I go into Einstein's, it's easy to pick out the regular customers. They're the ones who check the items in their bag before they leave the counter. Maybe Ralph Waldo Emerson's had Einstein's in mind when he coined the phrase, "A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of the little minds." Based on Emerson's dictum, Einstein's will never be a hobgoblin or have a little mind. Anyway, a few weeks ago, I attempted to order a hearty Saturday breakfast. While standing at the counter, the server approached with my bag of goodies. She was a short woman of indeterminate age. Her wrinkled uniform didn't fit very well, and she looked as if she was coming off an overnight shift at a second job. I had seen her before. She was usually the person who shouted the loudest, "Welcome to Einstein's," whenever anyone above room temperature came through the door. Before I could open the bag, she leaned forward across the counter. Then she whispered conspiratorially, "Sir, I want you to know that I couldn't open your jelly packets because of my carpal tunnel problems in both wrists. I hope that's okay." Unaccustomed to anything other than the standard and ritualized please and thank you conversations at the checkout counter, I started looking in the bag and mumbled, "No problem." Then, as I went outside to the patio and began to nosh, I thought about our exchange. As I've aged, I have more time to think. When thinking about myself, the results are generally illuminating and usually unsettling. And so I asked myself, why did she feel the need to tell me that she had a carpal tunnel problem in each wrist? Was she looking for sympathy? Had other people become angry when she hadn't opened their jelly packets? Did she feel like a failure? What was her problem or need? The more I thought, the clearer it became that the key lesson in this exchange wasn't about her at all. It was about my response. For whatever reasons, she had shared something about herself that made her feel bad. I responded with, "No problem." Think about it. My response, "No problem," carried messages with it like, "Your failures are not a problem for me." As the dominant and more powerful person in this exchange, I give you permission to not live up to my expectations. It's not a problem for me that you have carpal tunnel syndrome. And tisk tisk, I can handle things you cannot. Okay, am I overanalyzing here? Maybe. But wouldn't a better response have been one that acknowledged her condition and her pain? Something like, "I'm sorry to hear that. Carpal tunnel can really hurt." Maybe my response could have included some gratitude. "Thank you for trying to open them. I appreciate that." What if I had tried to offer some hope? "Have you looked into having surgery? I know some friends who have had carpal tunnel procedures and are now pain-free." I could have pointed her toward her gifts. "Don't worry about not opening the jelly. You always give me the most welcoming greetings whenever I come in." Next steps. Yes, it was a small, probably insignificant conversation, and yet it was an opportunity missed. I had been given an opening to respond with kindness to someone sharing something that worried them. It wouldn't have taken more than 10 seconds, and yet my default response was to make the exchange about me rather than her. "It's no problem for me." My response was natural. It wasn't obnoxious, and yet maybe next time I visit that Einstein's, I'll ask her about her carpal tunnels. Changing our default response from one bound up in our ego to one that sees the people around us takes both a lifetime and a moment. Making that shift is learning how to plant seeds that others can harvest as acts of kindness. And kindness, no matter what your ideology, theology, party affiliation, or language, is a fruit of the Spirit that we can distribute every day. A note from the author. Thank you for listening and viewing the Kindness Chrestotes chapter of Fruit for Thought. If you enjoyed today's clip, you can purchase the book by putting Art Edwards' Fruit for Thought into the search bar on Google, Amazon.com, store.bookbaby.com, or readersfavorite.com. To see clips for the rest of the book, go to the YouTube channel Casey Evans 9605. Grace and peace, Art Edwards. Scripture. And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. Ephesians 4:32, King James Version.